Hi, I'm Edri. I'm on staff here at North Decatur, and I'd like to invite you to join me in our journey through Acts. Today we're going through the first 3 verses of the 8th chapter of Acts, and it's a time of great transition. We go from Stephen's being stoned and his wonderful testimony before he's killed to the time of Philip preaching in Samaria. But how do we get from here to there? Well, there's a villain involved, and his name is Saul. In the very first verse of this chapter, we learn Saul approved of this killing of Stephen. And a time of persecution began, and it was throwing men and women in jail if they were believers, and it could be economic persecution and physical duress, and believers were ratted out by folks in the community. Wasn't a safe place to be in Jerusalem, so folks left. But because God is God and people are people, God finds a way to make good out of this horrid situation. Not only is Saul eventually converted to be a follower of Jesus instead of a persecutor of Jesus, but because followers of Jesus go to Samaria and to the outer areas of Judea, more people are learning about Jesus than would have known had they stayed right in Jerusalem. The apostles stayed in Jerusalem to form the community there, and disciples would come and go on preaching missions back and forth to keep touching base in Jerusalem, but go out and talk to the people and support them, come back and say what had happened. In these 3 little verses, we learn how come Christians started to scatter, because it wasn't safe at home. I think we have seen a lot of that. Whether somebody is a victim of domestic abuse and has to leave home, or whatever made any of us leave home, we could not have grown into the adults we are had we stayed. Likewise, the church couldn't have grown into what it has become, the good and the bad, if they had stayed in Jerusalem safe and sound. Times of change are scary and they're hard. And yet you cannot grow without change. And this time of persecution, it's easy to say in hindsight, was what helped the church grow. I cannot imagine being persecuted for what I believe. Not to the point of being thrown in jail. Not to the point of having a villain ravenously go after Christians. It makes me really uncomfortable and unhappy. And I'm grateful that we live in a different time. But that's just it. Because of what we're going through now in our quarantining and online devotions and online church, we're learning and growing in new ways. And I wonder what God has in store. These 3 verses are not our only time of transition. as you comment on Facebook or like this or share it, ponder what is a transition point in your life that made you grow into a better human being, a more godlike human being. And did you realize it's an ongoing transition? We're never set, but always growing. The church is like that too. Always growing, always in a time of transition. Brothers and sisters, grow with me. Grow with one another. Encourage one another. Be well. Bye.